So Laura is a speech language pathologist and a yoga instructor. And in January 2022, at 31, she made an appointment with her dermatologist due to some concerns about a changing mole. So Laura's here today to discuss her journey and her perspective as a patient and how early detection made a difference for her. So Laura, whenever you're ready, please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Abby, thanks so much for the introduction, and Melanoma Canada for giving me the opportunity to share my story tonight. As Abby mentioned, I was diagnosed with melanoma in 2022. To give you a little background about my story, I started to see a dermatologist in 2008 just for regular skin exams. And that was because I have a family history of melanoma. My grandmother was diagnosed when she was younger. And despite seeing a dermatologist regularly for many, many years, I unfortunately had unhealthy skin habits. I was born and raised in the Midwest. I currently live in Chicago. And so during the summer months, I laid out a lot. I wasn't super religious about wearing sunscreen. And unfortunately, I started using tanning beds at a very early age in high school. In 2020, my older sister, Rebecca, who is a dermatology PA, was diagnosed with melanoma. And that was when I started to be a lot more mindful about my skin health and started to become my own advocate when it came to tracking my moles. And so fast forward to early 2022, as Abby mentioned, that was when I received my melanoma diagnosis. And I had been doing regular monthly skin checks, keeping track of moles in between my yearly exams. And I noticed this mole underneath my right breast starting to change. It started to get a little bit darker in the center. And to the average person, they probably wouldn't have thought much about it. However, given my family history and being diligent about tracking my moles, I knew that something was not right and I needed to get in to see a dermatologist sooner rather than later. And so I made an appointment at my 9-month mark instead of waiting a full year to see my dermatologist. And when I went to see her, I expressed concern for that mole underneath my right breast. And she took one look at it and she was like, yep, this looks suspicious. We should probably biopsy it. And so a few days later, I received a phone call from her on my way home from work. And I kind of knew when it was my dermatologist on the phone and not an assistant that it wasn't going to be good news. And immediately she said, I'm sorry, but the biopsy came back as melanoma. And we'll need to go in soon to do a wide excision and make sure that we have clear margins. And so about a week later, I went in for that procedure. It took about 30 minutes to complete. And I was very grateful for my team. They were very supportive and kind of helped me stay calm throughout it. And it took a couple of weeks to get back to doing my normal workout routine. I'm a very active person. As Eddie mentioned, I am also a yoga instructor. And so that was just something that was really important to get back into doing following my procedure. And so it just took a little bit of time to heal. I am very lucky that my melanoma was caught early, that I didn't need any additional procedures following the wide excision. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm also very grateful to have the support system in place that I do. My husband, Kevin, was very supportive throughout the entire process. He was truly my rock. Also, my sister, Rebecca, who is the derm PA, who had her own melanoma diagnosis and wide excision just 2 years earlier, was very supportive with the process. In addition to just my immediate family, and then also my husband's family. He has 2 dermatologists and 1 derm PA on his side. So I feel very fortunate. I know not everyone has that luxury of having derms within the family, but I feel very fortunate to have that. Just to ask questions, anytime I have concerns, I go to them. In between my checkups. For the first 2 years after my initial diagnosis, I saw a dermatologist every 3 months. And then once I hit that 2-year mark, I switched to every 6 months. And so I still go to a dermatologist twice a year just to kind of ease that anxiety of a potential melanoma rising up again. And I'm also getting mole mapping done for the first time this month. So I'm really excited to try that. And the last presentation was great. It gave me insight and perspective on what to expect during that appointment. So that was very helpful. So thank you for sharing all of that information about mole mapping. So kind of to bring it back to why I'm sharing my story with you tonight. Obviously, I want everyone listening here tonight to educate themselves, to learn about skin cancer, specifically melanoma, and to really start taking care of your skin. And also just letting your loved ones know that it's really important to practice sun safety. It's something that people don't start early enough until it's too late. I think a lot of people assume that skin cancer, particularly melanoma, happens in older people, and I am proof that it happens in young individuals. I was diagnosed when I was just 31 years old. And so it's just something to be mindful of, that this can happen to anyone at any age. A couple of takeaways that I've learned just throughout my diagnosis and my process with melanoma. My first tip is just getting to know your skin. I think that was huge with finding my own melanoma diagnosis and bringing it to the attention of my dermatologist sooner rather than later. Making sure that you schedule annual appointments with your dermatologist. If you don't already see one, that's okay. You can schedule one today or tomorrow and get that on the calendar for the near future. Also wearing protective clothing, UPF clothing, wearing a wide brim hat, sunglasses, and of course, always wearing sunscreen. Limit your time in the sun when the UV rays are at the strongest, and also just never start the tanning beds like I did. So those are definitely takeaway points for tonight. I can tell you from personal experience that being tan is definitely not worth the potential diagnosis of melanoma or another type of skin cancer. I just want to say thank you all for listening tonight to my story and for creating a safe space for me as I share all that information with you. As I mentioned, my sister Rebecca, who is the derm PA, we actually started an Instagram not too long ago to spread awareness of melanoma. So if you want to follow along for tips on clothing, and just in general sun safety tips, our Instagram page is at Sun Safety Sisters. Thank you again. Have a great night.